So the final part will be a presentation from the Marine Resources Committee. This is, if you've been watching, we've been having a presentation of all of the town's committees, and we have people coming in each time. And so tonight's going to have the chair of the Marine Resources Committee talk about what's going on.
Good evening, councilors and members of the public. I'm the chairman of the Marine Resources Committee here in town. My name is Cody Gillis. I live on Thomas Point Road. So in the town of Brunswick, we have 57 residential commercial licenses, 6 non-resident, 17 student, and 2 bushel licenses. Contributes just in this town approximately 220 jobs just in Brunswick. And that goes from the clam harvesters to the people that drive the trucks, local buyers, etc. Our town physical characteristics, do you have the PowerPoint? We have approximately 61 miles of coastline in Brunswick. 1,600 acres of that is intertidal, which is what we directly manage. At the extreme low water mark, it's about 2,100 acres. So the Marine Resources Committee oversees the management and conservation of the municipal shellfish resources to support shellfish sustainability and community coastal resilience. The powers and duties are described in the Town of Brunswick Charter, Chapter 11, Marine Activities, Structures, and Ways, Section 3, Shellfishing. I'll just hit a couple of the points. Can you go to the second slide, please? To administer and coordinate the Shellfish Sustainability Program, to recommend to the Town Council how the money appropriated for Shellfish Sustainability Programs should be spent, to cooperate with the Department of Marine Resources and others in carrying on experimental programs, to harvest data documenting local values of shellfish resources through our surveys, to establish annually in conjunction with the Department of Marine Resources a number of commercial shellfish harvesting licenses to be issued. We also now review intertidal aquaculture applications as required by the Maine Department of Marine Resources. Go with the next slide. So our committee membership consists of 7 residents of the community representing cross-sections of expertise and interest in the marine resource management. Criteria of those memberships are provided in the town charter and consist of commercial, recreational, and unlicensed folks from the Brunswick community. Next slide. So a few of the things we did in the previous year. Conservation closures and management strategies. We had enacted a closure at Thomas Point Beach. We reopened that, yielded successful harvest during a very economically beneficial time of year. We enacted the Harpswell Cove Conservation closure on soft-shell clams and quahogs in part of a bigger effort to establish this area as a productive hard-shell growing area. In this area, we plant over 350,000 quahogs, and that does remain closed. We enact an annual winter quahog closure. It alleviates cold weather mortality, which quahogs are very sensitive to. We are the largest producer of hard-shell clams in the state of Maine. Recommended to the town council conservation buyback option for harvesters who choose to donate financially rather than physically to the town's conservation program. We use that to purchase seed to help replenish and bolster our wild stock. We recommended the adoption of local intertidal aquaculture requirements for the Marine Resources Committee to use as guidance when reviewing aquaculture lease applications in the town's shellfish management jurisdiction. We also implemented a 1-day recreational license to allow more Brunswick citizens access to the shellfish resource. Participated as opposition in the noise standards on commercial shellfishermen using airboats, and that was obviously an ongoing battle, but we've made some headway with that. Reviewed Paul's Marina bulkhead and pier replacement application, We also work with Manamet Fisheries on defining public and private harvester access to the mudflats, because as we all know, access is becoming more and more of an issue. But we do have maps and good documentation on what we have, what we've lost now. Worked with the Maine Sea Grant on a clam experiment along the Minot shore to help learn new propagation techniques. Conducted an intense intertidal mapping program that helps define different shellfish growing areas more precisely. We had an intern last year, and he did a lot of work with the town's GIS program. Very helpful. We reviewed and approved private intertidal limited purpose aquaculture licenses in Harpswell. Assisted the University of Maine Down East Institute in assessing shellfish recruitment in Harpswell Cove and Thomas Point Beach. And this is an ongoing project. We've done it for the last, I believe, 2 years. We're going to be doing it again this coming year. We maintained a floating quahog nursery on the town's limited purpose aquaculture license site. We have over 400,000 quahogs currently being nursed on the site off the Muir Point boat launch. We also participated in the Maine Coast Fishermen's Panel discussion on sustainable fisheries in a changing climate. Provided perspective on the McCoy Bay Growth Zone moratorium. Participate in the Casco Bay Regional Shellfish Working Group, which is all the towns surrounding Casco Bay. Just kind of a forum, ideas get exchanged. Try to make recommendations on management policy. We also participate in the state airboat stakeholder discussion group, and we recommended a sustainable shellfish license allocation for the 2023-2024 fishing year. So moving forward in 2023, it's a survey year, so we will assist in completing a shellfish inventory survey of the entire growing area, which is approximately 1,600 acres, to determine an appropriate license number to maintain a sustainable and balanced fishery. We have, again, partnered with Manamet Fisheries to work on intertidal quahog propagation techniques to help enhance the town's growing quahog resource. We will continue evaluating shellfish growing areas to determine shellfish size distribution in an effort to help identify areas in need of closures. We will be completing and applying for a grant through the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund to purchase a shellfish upweller, which will help us further propagate our quahog resource. Plant and restock shellfishing areas with quahog seed nursed in the town's floating nursery system. We will be, this year, teaming up again with the Down East Institute for a shellfish fecundity study. And those of you who may or may not know what fecundity is, it is the ability of an organism to reproduce a lot of spat, we'll say in the sense of clams, in an effort to further its population. We will continue to partner with the Casco Bay Shellfish Working Group and the Maine Shellfish Learning Network and others to help educate members of the industry and community on the importance of shellfish sustainability and their vital ecosystem services, as they are a keystone species. We will continue to participate with the Maine Shellfish Recruitment Monitoring Project. We will continue monitoring green crab populations. We will evaluate water quality and the need for additional monitoring. We will enhance the educational aspects around the town's student shellfish licensing program by working directly with the Brunswick School Department. And we will conduct at least 3 coastal cleanups covering the entire coastline of Brunswick. So this is just a few graphs. We had thrown in, the top is the combined landings, soft shell clam and quahog landings. You can see we hit a spike a few years back, and it seems to have leveled off, but landings data for this previous fishing year has not come in yet. It usually takes approximately a year, but we will have those and have those up as soon as we can. We are in the top 5 soft shell clam ports in the state. We are number 1 in the state for quahogs, and it's projected we are still going to be number 1 for the 2022 year. Bottom right, the Brunswick economic contribution, and I apologize, those numbers are so small. For 2020, it was about $8.7 million, the value of the fishery. So we do have committee vacancies. I know there is an interested harvester currently who is in the application process. Granted, if he is appointed, we will have a recreational harvester open seat and an alternate, which can be any member of the Brunswick community. And thank you for your time. Any questions?
Any questions? Oh, Councilor Updegraff.
Thank you, Chair Gillis, for an amazingly complete report, and I am astounded at the strong economic impact that shellfish harvesting has in Brunswick. I have not attended your meeting, but recently I've watched a couple on TV3, and I want to encourage people to do that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, thanks again, and I want to encourage people to watch the meetings or attend the meetings. You learn really an awful lot. When do you meet and where and what time?
We meet the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Great, and it's on TV, live feed, and Zoom, right?
Yes, we do have it on Zoom. The only time that we may not be live is if the school board or another function is in this room. It will be in a different room. It will be recorded and then played back on the town site.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Walker, I think you were.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Cody, thank you very much for this information, and thank you for your continued professionalism and leadership on the Brunswick Marine Resources Committee.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Watson.
Cody, you talked about some 200-plus workers on the flats. Could you give us a representation? And this is a tough question. How many families does that represent?
So the actual commercial harvesters in the town of Brunswick, we have 57 resident and 6 non-resident. The 200 gets incorporated beyond that. At the buying stations, you go to the marine supply store to get bags, gloves. It's kind of a, I don't know if trickle-down effect is the right word or trickle-up effect is the right word. And obviously, everybody's families of harvesters.
So we're not
gets a
just
direct
talking
benefit.
the harvesters, we're talking the industry, and that could be quite a few families involved.
Quite a few families.
I have a kind of broader question, Chair Gillis. How would you characterize the health of the flats right now?
Can't really comment in depth. This is a survey year, so we will have a definitive answer at the end of the year. I would say as far as soft shell clams go, it's not what it was 2 years ago. Obviously, you get 63 guys out there rototilling. It gets chewed up. As far as the mortality event that occurred this summer, I mainly harvest on the east side of town. I don't generally go to the west side of town, so I'm not exactly informed as well on that side of town. But hopefully our surveys this fall will give us a good defined answer on what it actually looks like.
Can you very briefly summarize what the survey will entail?
They're intense. In the springtime, we go out, we identify the growing areas, and then there's a schedule, and I believe it's posted on the town website. I'm not exactly sure yet, but we did discuss it at a previous meeting. So there's transects that are taken, and there's like a 2x2 plot, basically, of mud that's dug up, placed in a survey box, and you basically count everything that's in it. Everything from the smallest little sea clam all the way to 4 or 5 inch clams and cohogs. I mean, we survey everything. Even get a count if there's bloodworms. All that information goes basically into a data bank, and it's turned into graphs. And you get a spread of what's coming, what's ready for harvest, what's really large. And then obviously the some areas you won't see much of anything. Mother Nature works in mysterious ways. So.
All right, thank you. Are there any, Counselor Watson?
Cody, I've had one complaint from a constituent, and he respects and honors the workers and the people and the families. His complaint was the airboat. It wasn't necessarily, well, it was the noise, because he was complaining about the speed of the airboat, and his description was he was pretty much opening full blast. Sometime we can be our worst enemy.
I'm sorry?
Sometime we can be our worst enemy.
Yes, we can.
So I want to just speak out and caution those airboat operators, have respect for the people around them, because they're someone, and I'm not saying it was one of you guys, because I don't know, but somebody went through there around the front of their property at full tilt speed. So if you see any of you guys doing that, you know what to do.
Are there any additional questions? Counselor Ankles?
Just wanted to say thank you for all the work you've been doing. What would you say is the top challenge that your committee is facing this year? Or the industry, whatever you want to say about it.
The industry as a whole, I would say, and I'm not a huge fan of the term, but changing climate, things are much different than they were 30 years ago. They're different than when I started in 2017. We all want to say hopefully it's a cycle, but I mean, who knows? You know, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Like I said, you know, you get sets of clams in places that you never would have thought there would, and other places you think it should be very prolific, and it's not. In other places, it is. It's a really, I think we're all kind of learning in this new world, new ecosystem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the chair? Great, thank you, I appreciate
No, I
it.
have-
Oh, Counselor Wilson,
Yeah,
sorry.
I just sort of thought of it. Generally speaking, do you feel that the bay and everything connected with all of this, the industry, is it improving any? I know it was going way downhill. Are we making progress? And not that I think we should stop, but are we on the right track?
I think as a whole, I think we are. I believe the town council got my memo as far as like fertilizers and pesticides are concerned.
Yes.
That is a big one. That contributes very much to the health of the bay. There's a lot of work to do We've done a lot of work so far, but the situation changes frequently, and we need to be able to adjust and move on issues that are pressing and then work on the longer-term goals as we meet them.
Go ahead.
And I will also echo what Councilor Updegraff said, that, Updegraff, not grade, sorry, in that the public, I'm on the committee, and I went on it because I realized that I was a resident here for my whole life, and I didn't know that much about it. And I've learned an awful lot. And so I would back what Sandy said is, you know, everybody should check out these meetings and listen in once in a while, because there's just so many things that affect the bay and everything that it wouldn't occur to you, you know. So I do back people paying attention and watching some of these meetings or looking them up when you're bored and got nothing else to do. They're on Channel 3. You can find them somewhere. Because there is a lot to learn that just wouldn't enter your mind about the bay.
It's, the heads of these bays are, you know, I said keystone species as far as shellfish is concerned, but you lose the bays, it all goes down.
Yeah.
The heads of these bays are critical in this ecosystem, and keeping them healthy is going to keep everything else healthy.
Yep. And thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Watson?
Just a comment. I'm really happy to see a little reason why this industry is working sitting over here. Thank you for bringing him in and seeing the young people as to why you people are working and doing the job that you do. It's for them.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. If there aren't any further questions, thank you very much.